found that those people who ate 30 or more plant foods a week had a far more diverse gut microbiome.
So that's fruit and veg.
It's actually fruit, veg, grains, nuts, seeds. So just 30 different types a week. So it actually isn't completely out of reach. If you had your porridge with berries and seeds and nuts, that's already like four out of your 30 in one meal. So it's just varying little things, just like a different seed every morning, a different.
Hi, you're listening to the Feel Better Everyday podcast. I'm Eve Menezes Cunningham, and I'm here to help you create the life you don't have to retreat from. I'm doing this by helping you take better care of yourself. That's the lowercase self-care, and also that uppercase self, that highest, wisest, truest, most brilliant, joyful, and miraculous part of yourself. I do this by sharing trauma-informed and ADHD-friendly self-care ideas, and I would love to hear how you're getting on and what questions you might have. Today, we're working with our digestive health for World Digestive Health Day, and I'm delighted to welcome back Jane Leonard, who specialises in food and mental health. So I hope you find this helpful. And if you want to join the Soul to Soul Circle, or if you're already a member, your bonus content this week will be a deeper dive into working with your inner child around pathological demand avoidance when you want to eat healthier, but your inner toddler is like, nope. And there's also plenty of helpful information for people dealing with actual toddlers. I just made it all about my own inner toddler. I hope you enjoy the episode and thank you for listening. So welcome, Jane. Thank you for coming back to the Feel Better Everyday podcast. And this is actually around your specialism because we're celebrating World Digestive Health Day. Do you want to say a little bit about your background for people who haven't listened to the earlier episodes and where people can find you?
Yeah, so I'm a psychotherapist and nutritional therapist. My interest is in the intersection of the two, so food and mood. So I am currently doing a PhD in how mental health professionals use food and mood research in their work, because there's a whole field called nutritional psychiatry, which studies the relationship between what we eat and how we feel. So you can find me on my website, vivecounseling.com, or on LinkedIn or Instagram at Vive Counseling.
And that's VIVE.
That's VIVE, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So if you were to think about your ideal self-care around your own eating and your actual, what would you like to say about that?
Yeah, so I suppose ideally, based on the research, we should be eating 30 different plant foods a week, and that's for our gut health, for our digestive health, mental health. So there's been the American Gut Project found that those people who ate 30 or more plant foods a week had a far more diverse gut microbiome.
So that's fruit and veg.
It's actually fruit, veg, grains, nuts, seeds. So just 30 different types a week. So it actually isn't completely out of reach. If you had your porridge with berries and seeds and nuts, that's already like four out of your 30 in one meal. So it's just varying little things, just like a different seed every morning, a different fruit. But yeah, aiming for 30 over the week is probably what we know is.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you think you do?
Challenge accepted. I think if this were even a few months ago, I'd have been like, da, 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 da. It's just like not even worth trying. Whereas I think I'm guessing I'd be probably around 20 because I do have a lot of fruit and veg now. And what you're saying with the nuts and seeds, I believe I no longer think you're an alien for suggesting such a thing. Put it that way. I believe it is possible.
I mean, even I know you like dal, so it's like lentils,
Yeah.
like garlic, onion,
Yeah. Oh,
and
okay. So
rice.
garlic and yeah. So I
Yeah,
made yesterday dal. I had the onion, the garlic, the ginger, the turmeric root, the coriander, the spinach, the tomato. Would the coconut milk count?
I
The
don't think it needs whole
lentils.
foods, so it'll be the whole,
Yeah,
yeah,
so the lentils. So that's, I think, 8, if I counted correctly, in
yeah,
one meal. But
yeah,
then I tend to eat the dal every day for however long. It's about variety, isn't it?
yeah. Well, your breakfast, your lunch, your snacks. So yeah, so about 30 plant foods a week. One helping of fermented food a day as well for gut health is what they say is best. So
So like
sauerkraut.
kombucha.
Yes, kefir, kimchi, miso, sauerkraut. You just have to be careful if you're buying sauerkraut in the supermarket that it's not the pasteurized one, that it's the
Yeah.
actual real
So
fermented one.
what are vegan options, and if possible, what are pepper-free vegan options? This is very much about my allergy, but there'll be other people who are vegan.
Yeah, so some kimchis are vegan. You just have to
Okay.
look to see that it's not the fish sauce in
Okay.
them. I know Aldi have one that's
Okay.
or Lidl have one that's vegan. Sauerkraut, miso. You can make water, kefir, kombucha.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so most of them, yeah. So I think like about a tablespoon or so a day
Yeah.
of
Wow.
sauerkraut or something.
Just a tablespoon.
Yeah, I think 1 tablespoon is one serving. I mean, I think most people don't even get close to that. So
No, I'm thinking,
any increase is a good
yeah,
increase.
it's that sense always of, and I think this is an ADHD thing as well. It's like well, I can't do it perfectly. I'm not going to bother at all.
Mhm.
So a tablespoon feels way more manageable. I was imagining like a whole bowl of it and thinking, ew.
No, like 1 to 2 tablespoons. Yeah, I mean, but beyond 2 tablespoons, I don't
Yeah.
think it's probably, a need. But any, like I said, any change is better than
Yeah.
none. So
Well, that's
if
the
a
point of the
tablespoon,
podcast. Something is better than nothing. It doesn't
so I
have to
mean,
be ideal.
a teaspoon would be better than nothing,
Yeah.
or having it once a week would be better than never having it.
Yeah.
So it's about
Oh, yeah.
it's whatever feels manageable, you're
Yeah.
not trying to be perfect, you're just trying to grow a little bit, make it a little bit easier each time. I
Yeah.
say this now, knowing that
Yeah.
I rarely do this myself with the
Yeah.
fermented foods, even though I have the best intentions, but
Yeah.
definitely make the 30 different plant foods.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. So they would be two things. And then the other thing I would say is ultra processed foods to
Yeah.
really watch those.
More.
Yeah,
I
they're
know. Less.
they're just kind of coming out now as being pretty
Yeah.
bad for gut health and overall health and mental
Yeah.
health as well.
Yeah.
Big links between that. So
Yeah.
I'd say if you have them intentionally,
Yeah.
rather than because we can have like an ultra processed pasta sauce and not realize it's actually maybe not as good as one we
Yeah.
make ourselves. Whereas at least if you're going to have something ultra processed, at least recognize what it is and that you're having it as a treat or
Yeah.
whatever, rather than
Yeah.
bringing them into your day.
Yeah. When I started seeing the medical herbalist Colleen, she was a guest a few weeks ago. It was a good few years ago now, maybe 4 years ago. But I was actually celebrating my Denny's anniversary of like a year of Denny's vegan sausages every day because they were so delicious. She was horrified. And it's like as a treat, but not as yeah.
Yeah, the a lot of the vegan food
Yeah.
is very ultra processed.
Yeah. And do you use the Yucca app?
I don't. I tend to make most of my stuff from scratch, or I just quickly check the labels, but I tend to just buy the whole food, so I don't. But I know I've had lots of clients say it's been very helpful. I know you've said it's very helpful.
Yeah. Just thinking like even in terms of like say making dal, the first time I was using the app, most of the coconut milk tins I was picking up were containing hazardous, risky additives. That's the thing I'm seeking to avoid.
Yeah.
But like some of the ultra processed vegan stuff, it shows up well on the Yucca app in terms of nutritional value, and others terrible.
Okay.
It's really like even within the same brand, different products either, and it's really like I wouldn't have the bandwidth or the brain to be navigating the labels. So yeah.
Yeah, and I would say with labels, it's, you know, like a shorter label or foods you can recognize tend to be, but
Healthy.
that's just a general rule of thumb. But yeah, and with the coconut milk, you can replace it with you know, the
I
block.
got organic, it was okay.
Oh yeah.
But sorry, do you mean like the decimated coconut?
No, you can kind of get, is it cocoa butter? It's a little block.
Okay,
It's cocoa
yeah.
butter. It's a little block. Oh, you can get it in the health food store. I need to figure out what it will come to me. But you can just kind of like grate it up or whatever.
Yeah, I think it is. I want to say the decimated or desecrated coconut. My grandmother used to use it.
Okay.
In like, but I can't remember. Clearly, it's not like unsacred.
Yeah, so that's one workaround. Yeah.
And the organic one was good. Yeah. But sorry, I'm interrupting you. ADHD.
No, you're fine.
Anything else for your ideal for all of us and for yourself?
So I think that would be I think we'd be doing amazingly if we could all do that, if we could reduce our ultra processed to like 20% ultra processed. So that's, you know, those kind of highly processed foods, or that you said have lots of additives, like emulsifiers now are being thought to be pretty unhealthy for the gut. They might increase the permeability of the gut, and damage the balance of the microbiome. But they're also quite high in sugar, which obviously feeds the bad bacteria, and they are very low in fiber. The fiber is usually stripped out, which of course we need fiber to feed the probiotics, the good bugs. Yeah.
So in terms of your actual, because I know you're looking amazing and sounding amazing, but you're also in a tumultuous time with lots of house moves and like you're doing amazingly. What is your actual essential daily self-care around food and your own gut health?
Yeah, it could be better at the moment. Like you said, things are a bit hectic, but I do try to eat, you know, I think I've said this the last podcast, like something proteiny. I usually just have like nuts or seeds or something first thing in the morning. And I try and just keep it really, really simple. So like oat cakes with hummus and tomatoes and, you know, some spices or herbs, you know, that's kind of already three things, you know, 3 of my 30, just very, very simple things, but that are not hugely processed, or like rice cakes with 100% peanut butter or almond butter and banana and cinnamon. Yeah, just trying to keep it really, really simple, but recognizing that, okay, yeah, I could have the really fancy, lovely, tasty thing, but actually this is really tasty too. And you do notice that when you start cutting out all the ultra processed foods, regular foods do taste better. Yeah,
because we've been conditioned. And I'm also remembering you're gluten-free as well as being vegan, like, so you've got extra challenges around.
Well, very low gluten, but I do eat sometimes because I'm not celiac, but I do have gluten intolerance. But so it is, but I suppose I'm used to now, and
And you mentioned, I've heard that a few times about the importance, especially with ADHD brains, for like protein. And I'm thinking I've got a little bowl of nuts next to the kettle for easy access, which I walked straight past this morning. And I haven't had breakfast yet. I've been up for hours. And some people have said that it's important to eat first thing. And then other people talk about like intermittent fasting. And I tend to think, oh, I'll eventually eat when I remember to eat, which I realise is probably not what you're going to say is ideal.
I don't know. I mean, I suppose it is kind of individual. I would have previously eaten when I still do. I still eat when I feel like eating, you know. I just look at breakfast as when you break your fast rather than
Yeah,
it has to be at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. or whatever. But yeah, intermittent fasting, the research is interesting. I think it's more persuasive for men than it is for
yeah,
women because of hormonal fluctuations and things. With ADHD as well, it may not be the best option, or it may be that you do your kind of fasting window from
yeah,
morning till afternoon, particularly if
yeah,
people are on medication. They probably do need to eat before they take their medication because that suppresses the
yeah,
appetite. So yeah, I mean, I have worked with people who do intermittent fast, but
yeah.
we've looked at kind of adjusting the fasting window, and that seems to work better.
And again, to be clear, I'm not actual intermittent fasting. I'm just randomly picking something and thinking, well, maybe what I'm doing that everyone's telling me is bad is fine because other people deliberately don't eat for. But I'd love if you could say something like, first of all, is there anything else that is an essential for you, especially in turbulent times?
Um, for me, I suppose it's nature as well, time outside in nature among the trees, and that's obviously really good for our gut health as well. You know, there's lots of microbes all around us that we should be absorbing,
Yeah,
and digging in the soil and stuff. I haven't had a chance to do that in a while, but
yeah,
definitely nature as much as I can.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And what would you like to say about sensitive nervous systems and trauma and ADHD and gut health, if anything?
Yeah, so I suppose there's a link between, you know, trauma and like digestive issues, IBS, and irritable, so irritable bowel syndrome and inflammatory bowel disease. And there's also a link between ADHD and IBS. So I don't know that they fully know why, but obviously the gut microbiome is being investigated as a link, and there is a link between ADHD and gut health as well. They're looking at that. So I think it probably is about improving gut health through diet and maybe probiotic supplementation, maybe more time in nature, more exercise, managing stress. And there is research that when we do that, ADHD symptoms can improve.
And I mean, you're saying that it's like, of course, and rest, digest,
Yeah,
parasympathetic activity, it's so important. And then it's so much easier said than done.
absolutely.
What helps you reduce stress when, like, what helps, like, I know you've said a few things, and you seriously revolutionized my life when I interviewed you the first time. And like yesterday I had a friend over making dal and pilau rice, and it was like, yeah, it was stressful trying to navigate the attention and focus and getting distracted, but thinking, I can't believe how much I've come to love cooking because I decided to reframe it as part of my self-care, that nourishing myself. And I have actually forgotten what I was asking you.
So other things to reduce stress that I do. Maybe try the
So
breakfast.
like batch cooking. Yeah.
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 Um, yeah, I suppose nature is my biggest one.
Yeah.
I love being outdoors, and even just, you know, there is, again, lots of studies that say nature calms are great
Yeah.
for trauma, great for anxiety, great for depression, for ADHD symptoms, because that's how we're meant to live. It really
Yeah.
grounds me, makes me feel mindful. It switches off my brain. Presumably it helps my gut health. And like you said, cooking as well is, I find it very, very mindful. I get into the flow. Um, you know, so it's like that's just what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That one thing.
And
Um,
can you remind us, for people who haven't listened to your first
mhm.
interview on the podcast, like I'm listening to you now and it's like, I'm going to do, the batch cooking. I am doing much more batch cooking, but I realise that I realise that is a symptom. It's like, I'm going to spend a whole day doing like a month's worth. And that just isn't realistic with my schedule. How do you navigate, because you've got kids as well, like how do you navigate the actual cooking in a sustainable way?
So I think just keep it simple. You know, like I said, I like, you know, you see all the Instagram meals and they look amazing and they're great and they are fabulous, but they're really, you know, they can be really overwhelming as well for anyone, for busy people, anyone. But if you've ADHD as well, or trauma, or anxiety, or depression, like that's really overwhelming to gather all these different ingredients and prepare it all and do 25 steps. I think it's lovely for a special occasion, but I do think, and I've had this conversation with clients before, when we look back on how our grandparents ate, and our parents would have eaten, and they were, you know, probably much healthier than us in terms of like food related illnesses and things.
And the soil would have had more nutrients back then as well.
Yeah, for sure. And more, the food had more flavor back then because of the way they're bred and the soil. But they ate much simpler food. It was just a focus on what's in season, what's, you know, whole foods. And that's what I do. I just keep it really, really simple. I don't do hugely fancy. I use a lot of herbs and spices and things, but I'm not, you know, I'm not spending hours every day making dinner at all.
Well, for the bonus content for the Soul to Soul Circle members, I'd like to talk to you about self-care and nutrition for our inner children, like and actual children as well, where appropriate. But I wondered, just for this conversation, what are your thoughts around working metaphorically, like when we have an upset stomach, when we have when there's a lot going on that's stressful and we're struggling to digest life? Like, do you work metaphorically with the gut as well as physiologically?
Probably not as much as you would, I would think. Not so much. I would always encourage people to listen to their gut. I mean, I'm huge on that coming from the trauma background. I don't know, do I do it so metaphorically? But for sure, listening to it, what's it saying? If it's upset, that's meaning something. If it's telling you this is not there's a problem, that's, you know, we need to listen to that. But I don't think I do it in the same way you do.
I was just curious, and I want to be really clear, like if you've got gut issues or any health issues, I think metaphorical work is amazing, image work, all of it, and see a doctor, see a doctor.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So thank you so much for this conversation, and can you remind listeners again where they can find you?
Yeah, so at my website, vivecounselling.com, VIVE, and Instagram and LinkedIn at Vive Counselling.
Thanks a million.
Thanks, Eve.
Thanks again for listening to the Feel Better Everyday podcast. For deeper dives into each episode and bonus content, interviews with my guests, as well as access to the whole archive, including the entire Love Your Whole Self chakra journey, you can join the Soul to Soul Circle. You might also enjoy the book, 365 Ways to Feel Better, Self-Care Ideas for Embodied Wellbeing, and you can find out more about all the offerings at selfcarecoaching.net and the feelbettereverydaypodcast.com. Have a gorgeous week. This episode, like all episodes, has been produced by me, your host, Eve Menezes Cunningham. Take care.